Wars versus series. We'll take a Star Wars ship or a Star Wars character and put it against a character or ship from another series. Well, today I'm actually making a video that doesn't involve Star Wars at all. I'm talking about the 5 strongest UNSC ships from the Halo franchise. Now, I know a lot of you are probably into this kind of content, so if so, that's great for you, but I know some other of you probably subscribed for Star Wars content only. So I think from now on, this kind of content is going to go on my second channel, X2, which I'll put a link to down in the comments. But I would love to hear from you guys. Do you want to see this kind of content on my main channel? Do you want to see it only on my second channel? I'm going to put a little annotation in the top right corner where you can actually vote on that, and I will use that to determine where these videos go in the future. And right now I'm actually working on a top 5 Covenant ships video, so this vote will determine whether that goes on X2 or on Eckhart's Ladder. Alright, so with all that out of the way, let's get right into the list. And as I mentioned, we're looking at the 5 strongest UNSC or human ships from the Halo universe. And I'm going to be including all ships, whether they were pre or post Human Covenant War. Number 5 is one of the heaviest ships used by humanity during the war. It's the Valiant class heavy cruiser. At over 1.5 kilometers long, the Valiant is probably most well known for being the ship class of the UNSC Everest. The Everest was the flagship of Vice Admiral Preston Cole, a hero in the UNSC, and while commanding the Everest, he notably destroyed over 300 Covenant vessels at the Battle of Sci Serpentis. Like any good UNSC ship, the Valiant used MAC cannons, Shiva missiles, 50mm point defense guns, and Archer missiles. And although this ship was pretty well armed, by the time of the end of the Human Covenant War, it was admittedly a little out of date. This segues nicely into number 4, the Autumn-class heavy cruiser. And unlike the Valiant, the Autumn was actually designed after the Human Covenant War, although, of course, it draws inspiration from the UNSC Pillar of Autumn and the modifications made to that ship. This ship serves as a replacement to the Halcyon and Marathon-class cruisers of the UNSC, frontline capital ships used to fight everyday engagements against the Covenant. However, unlike those ships, the Autumn-class heavy cruiser is actually augmented with Forerunner technology. Most notably, the Autumn-class is shielded, has a super efficient MAC which allows it to fire 3 times in a row without recharging, and is longer and sturdier than the old Halcyon cruisers. And although the Halcyon isn't particularly large, at less than 1.5 kilometers long, it could really use the size it did have to pack a punch. Number 3 is the Epoch-class heavy carrier, and I include this one in the list because the UNSC needed a dedicated heavy carrier, and that's what they have with the Epoch. Unlike the Valiant or the Autumn, which were primarily battleships, the Epoch was used to carry other ships, particularly longswords, into battle. And really, ships like this are vital to supporting a larger fleet during more serious engagements. Along with a likely complement of hundreds of longswords and broadswords, the Epoch was also outfitted with a standard MAC cannon and probably would have carried other nuclear and conventional missiles. The ship, however, was probably most well known for just being extremely sturdy, which I mean is definitely something you want as a carrier because you're always going to be a large and vulnerable target. So just to summarize, this line of ship was extremely important, and the Epoch would have played an extremely specialized but very, very important role within the UNSC Navy. Number 2 is the most powerful ship available to the UNSC during the Human Covenant War, and it's the Punic-class supercarrier. Ships of this line were extraordinarily powerful, and at over 3 kilometers long, they were really the only human ship which could hope to survive a direct engagement with the Covenant. Along with its size, the Punic was known for being very, very well armed. It had double MAC cannons, which allowed it to output twice the amount of damage as most UNSC capital ships. And for this reason, Punic-class supercarriers were often assigned to very important parts of UNSC space. The Trafalgar, for example, was part of the Epsilon Eridani fleet, which protected the whole sector and in particular, Reach. But I will say, all of these ships pale in comparison to the number 1 most powerful ship in the UNSC fleet, which is of course the UNSC Infinity-class supercarrier. At over 5 kilometers long, the UNSC Infinity was the greatest of humanity's technological achievements. It was created with the best available technology after the Human Covenant War, including adapted Forerunner technology, giving the ship notably the ability to communicate well in slip space, a powerful shield, which again is pretty rare for UNSC vessels and was totally non-existent before the end of the war, and 4 special advanced MAC cannons. And I mean, this ship is so powerful and so large that it actually carries in its underbelly 10 Trident-class heavy frigates, which are themselves very technologically advanced, albeit much smaller ships. All in all, the UNSC Infinity is the most powerful ship ever fielded by humanity, at least modern humanity, and it's one of the most powerful ships currently operating in the Halo universe. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, guys, and don't forget to vote on whether you want to see this kind of content on my main channel at Cart's Ladder or on my second channel. It's important that you take note of this because it will determine where I upload the 5 strongest Covenant videos, which should be done either tomorrow, perhaps even today, or the next day. Also, make sure you subscribe to my second channel. There's not really a whole lot there, but in the future I'm going to start posting things that aren't strictly Star Wars related over there. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please give me a like if you did, subscribe, and share with your friends. And hey, even though this is a Halo video, may the Force be with you.
The stars arrive for Cthulhu to arise, and to reveal this video's sponsor, CuriosityStream is what you are in the dark, but money is what you will have in the bank if you can fake characterization. Good old Merriam-Webster defines characterization as the artistic representation, as in fiction or drama, of human character or motives. Basically, it is how a story reveals aspect of the characters to the audience. But, more importantly, how can a writer properly characterize their cast in their story, especially if, like me, one finds themselves to be a boring person that has all the force of personality of a potted fern? Well, fear not, for terrible writing advice will show any writer how to properly write characterization. And you can trust me, because over the course of many TWA episodes, it's not like I have been characterized as petty, greedy, self-serving, short-sighted, insensitive, mean, ignorant, ruthless, and just all around about as trustworthy as a used car salesman trying to sell you timeshares on Neptune. Now, the most important thing to remember is that characterization is a purely optional component of storytelling. There is direct characterization, in which the story just tells us about an aspect of a character's personality. Indirect characterization, which the story shows the audience a quality about the character, but the best method is no characterization. People don't read stories for interesting characters, they read stories purely to watch cardboard cutouts fight over MacGuffins. That means that it is fine to have a protagonist whose only character trait is that they are the protagonist. Only a generic protagonist person can save the world now, while a protagonist lacking any extreme personality qualities can serve as a solid anchor so the audience has someone to identify with in an otherwise colorful cast of characters. This means that they will really identify with a character whose charisma could be rivaled by a plastic spoon. So our main character has precisely 0 character traits, which is great! Do they have a motive as well? Don't be silly. Of course my main character has a motive. The protagonist's motive is to, find the MacGuffin. What is the protagonist's stake in finding the MacGuffin? Why does our protagonist want to leave their comfortable life and go on dangerous adventures? Because the plot knows where they live and will burn down their house if they don't get moving. See? That got the protagonist going. No characterization required. So we have burned down the protagonist's home, revealed a secret world of magic populated by hyper-dangerous apex predators, and thrust them into the middle of cutthroat wizard house politics, and have basically completely demolished the protagonist's worldview. What is their reaction to learning that everything they've ever known is a lie? Well, we will never know because we have to get to the next plot point. There isn't time for the characters to emotionally process events because I have to dump the epic history of House Longwindionis in here somewhere. But what if the writer is a tryhard who wants to actually characterize their characters? Well, then we give our characters some character traits. Let's make Mary Sue clumsy. That's a trait, right? Hey, we can even count that as a flaw. Mary Sue is determined, steadfast, intelligent, and other positive adjectives we can slap on a character profile. Character profiles can be a good way to organize information about a character, but they really shine when a writer spends endless hours tweaking and obsessing over it. Because I personally find character profiles just so exciting, like a grocery list. Now we just arrange a bunch of random character traits and the whole thing simply works, right? Mary Sue is confident, but she is also insecure. Can't see how those are mutually exclusive. It's not like character flaws are the flip side of character strengths and that these two components form